Greetings to all who wish to be greeted. I'm Mega Pack Kid, and this is Mega Pack Kid's Pride Mania 2! Last year, I watched a bunch of queer shows for Pride Month, and I uploaded the video on July 1st. Whoopsie. These were shows that I had heard had queer representation, but I didn't do any other research to make sure. This is why shows like Arcane and She-Ra were included, despite neither of them really being queer shows. I watched 52 episodes of this damn show just for one sapphic kiss between the main characters. I also feel like I didn't represent enough of the queer community. The video was somewhat rushed given that I only had the idea to start it during June. So I decided to actually spend time making this video. I have a show to represent the lesbians, gays, bisexuals, transgender folks, and queers, with a couple extras thrown in there. Let's take a look at a musical with just about everyone in the LGBTQIA+ acronym, Rockabye. Rockabye is a musical about a literal band of misfits learning to work together and going to space to sing a lullaby to the eldritch god Azathoth in order to save the universe. I briefly mentioned it in my video about the show's creator, Sushi Sushi. I said I would save my full thoughts for this video, so here they are. The show is so good, oh my gosh. Act 1 is full of character development, with almost everyone overcoming their major foils by the end. This leaves Act 2 to get weird with the Lovecraftian world the story sets up, and it is so fun. I won't spoil too much because this musical is free on YouTube, but everything is wrapped up in a nice little bow at the end. The writing in this show is so good, and so are the performances. Every actor is giving 100% the entire show. Jada Valencia nails the cool, chaotic nature of Adel Foster. Sushi Sushi clobbers the irreverent character Simon Pratt. Shout Young, Rachel Chow, and January Eiler slay their characters' arcs of becoming more open and confident with themselves. Even the ensemble members, Sam Fields and August Greenwood, gave a heck of a performance. Finally, Justin Kent, the person who plays Bobby Yog-Sothoth and is the voice of Azathoth. I love people who can perform this way. Kent's abilities shown in Rockabye are similar to Robin Williams' abilities shown in Aladdin. Azathoth is a fun character, and the song it's introduced with, Wide Awake, hits hard. All of the music in this musical absolutely slaps. There are 16 songs, including the overture, and each one is fantastic. The song Stay Positive from Sushi's album Sushi Soup makes a surprise but appreciated appearance, and the original songs are all great too. I would be remiss if I did not mention that this musical is the epitome of fine, I'll do it myself. Sushi wanted to put one of their musicals on stage before he turned 20, and this one premiered 2 weeks before his 20th birthday. It also addresses the lack of representation in media, including in the theater world. Sushi flies many flags, and all of them and more get used here, and it feels organic. This isn't a story filled with corporate or token diversity. It's a story with characters that feel real. They have real struggles because they were written and portrayed by people who deeply understood those struggles. When Marley expresses a disliking of her adoptive parents not teaching her about any of her Chinese heritage, Simon has a heart-to-heart with her, being part white and part Korean, and expressing a fear that he would stop being Korean if his father passed away. It's his first show of empathy or really any emotion in the show that isn't surface level, and it's a touching moment. It's immediately followed by a joke, but that's okay because there's not a single joke in this show that doesn't land. The show doesn't just have great racial representation, but great queer representation as well. Every character except for Kent's characters are portrayed as queer. Almost every character uses they-them pronouns in one way or another. Simon and Xander are bisexual, Calypso is pansexual, Marley is a lesbian, and Adel does not experience romantic attraction. I would say that makes it aromantic, but that word isn't used in the show nor in the character bio, and I'm not gonna push a label onto someone else. Rockabye is an amazing musical by amazing people. I drove 12 and a half hours to see it live in person, and I'd do it again. Fortunately for you all, you can see it for free on YouTube. Now to the beginning of the acronym with Willow. This is a story about lesbians with a forest aesthetic and fantasy elements. Wait, wrong one. There you go. The show was a continuation of the 1988 film of the same name, keyword being was, as Disney removed it from the face of the earth during the purge of Disney Plus and Hulu. Because it's now lost media, and I already talked about it in my last video, I won't dwell on it for too long. This truly was an amazing show with a cute, sapphic relationship between Kit and Jade. Not only was this relationship at the forefront, the story, world, and connections to the film were incredible. It really felt like it was a natural continuation of the story from the movie. After I finished watching it, I was devastated at the idea that I would never get to watch it again, nor would I get to see how the story continued. Ruby Cruz and Aaron Kellyman did a phenomenal job acting in this show, and all the other elements that I mentioned in my previous video were great too. Moving right along to another 80s continuation, A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge. It's the surprise appearance this year. The sequel to the classic slasher film does not do the same things Willow did. The only returning aspects from the first film are the locations and, of course, Freddy. Calling this Freddy's Revenge is weird, because Freddy isn't the one exacting revenge here. He gives the main character Jesse some powers to kill people that are making his life harder. If anything, Freddy was getting his revenge in the first film. He may have failed, but it was still his revenge. But how does it hold up queer representation-wise? The secondary character of the gym teacher is a gay man. Jesse even goes to a gay bar where he finds him. That scene is right before his bloody murder scene. It's not the best representation in the world, or even on this list, but it's cool to see even just a slice of queer culture from a couple decades before I was born. It wasn't originally on this list, but I thought it'd be funny to put on ever since I watched it with my best friend on Halloween. Going back one decade, we get Manila in the Claws of Light. This is a film from the Philippines that I had to watch for my introduction to screen studies class in college. I didn't like it very much, but not because of its quality. The film shows many issues and themes that I won't go into here for this video to be accessible to everyone, but it made for a very difficult film to watch. I knew this film was from 1975, so I thought it was too good to be true when my gaydar went off the second one of the characters appeared on screen. I thought, there's no way this guy is gay. They wouldn't put that in this movie. He's just dressing in the style of the time and place, and he's just being nice to Julio, the main guy, when he's down on his luck. Anyway, then 2 scenes after he was introduced, it turns out he is a gentleman of the night. He sells his time and intimacy to other men, if you catch my drift. He tells Julio he's not gay, he's just in it for the money, but like, my gaydar went off. He invites Julio to come work with him, but he just can't get into it despite his best efforts. I think it's a good movie, one of the better ones we were shown, but I would check doesthedogdie.com for trigger warnings first if you intend to watch it. Another movie with gay fellas I watched this past year was Disney's Strange World. I went to see it with my whole family, and it was a very creative film. I liked it visually, and it had a lot of creative ideas, but the climax and ending left more questions than answers. I won't spoil it here in case you want to watch it yourself, but I will say that the one thing this movie gets right is the characters. They are written so realistically as a family, and it is wonderful. The gay romance in this film takes more of a backseat. Ethan Clade's a great character, and the crush he has on his friend improves the story, in my opinion. But the guy he has a crush on is barely in the movie. That's not inherently a bad thing. I think representation in media can be done best when it's in a background detail. Like, we know that the kids in the Mighty Ducks Game Changers have parents, but it makes it feel like queer people are just people as opposed to a variant that differs from the norm when they're talking about their parents and Nick Gans mentions his moms. This is the same, and I think it's a step in the right direction. But I also love when queer storylines like an awakening or a romance are major parts of the plot, like in the only show returning from last year, The Owl House. The Owl House's final season was rushed, and it almost didn't happen. Disney wanted to save money and felt that an incredibly niche and heavily serialized show wasn't worth the effort. The production team's lawyers told Disney that they had to put on a third season due to their contract, so Disney agreed to produce 3 episodes, each the length of 2 episodes from the first 2 seasons. You can watch the final season for free on YouTube, but you have to pay if you want to watch the whole series. Here's my reaction to the first episode.
Um, I sorry about the lighting. The light switch is on the other end of the room, and I have a cat with me. A cat who has just sat with me the entire time that I watched the Owl House series finale. It was incredible. In a word. I don't even know how to describe it. Everything was just amazing. Dana Terrace did a great job. Everyone did a great job with this season and ending this series. My cat just left. It was incredible. I can't believe it's really over. I can't believe it's really over. It was amazing.
These are still my thoughts to this day. The Owl House is an incredible show from start to finish, and I am honored to have lived in a time where I could watch it. Anyway, they really dialed up the queerness to 11, especially in episode 1, with one featured character being flagrantly non binary and Luce coming out to her mother as bisexual in the opening credits. 10 out of 10. Speaking of bisexuals, Grant O'Brien starred in an episode of the Dropout show Game Changer, themed around The Bachelor. Game Changer is a game show where the game changes every show, and sometimes they pay homage to other games and shows. Grant O'Brien has been the lanky punching bag of college humor for a long time into this era since they started their streaming platform Dropout. I talked about one of their shows last year, Tales from the Closet, hosted by Allie Beardsley, which consistently had Grant on as a guest and even a host for one episode. Beardsley's vodcast has yet to make a return for a season 2 since they started medically transitioning, but they are still very much a part of Dropout, being a regular on Dimension 20 and consistently appearing on episodes of Game Changer. Including this one as one member of O'Brien's council to help him decide how to narrow his list of potential partners. This two-parter finally answers the question of what if The Bachelor was bisexual? Grant O'Brien himself is bisexual, and the team mentioned in the behind the scenes that they wanted to respect that when picking people for these episodes. It's a wild ride with College Humor's own spin on the core concept of The Bachelor, and a heartwarming ending. College Humor employs people from all sorts of different backgrounds, both as crew and as talent. The smaller size of the company makes the whole streaming service feel like one big family, as opposed to something like Disney Plus. Like, yeah, actors like Samuel L. Jackson and Ming-Na Wen may appear in multiple projects across the platform, but it's much more personal with Dropout. It makes the service worth every penny. You know what's free, though? YouTube, which is where these last two things can be found. Choice, a short film by Teef Scrubs, shows the overwhelming nature of living as a trans person in the United States of America in 2023, dealing with transphobia not just from civilians, but from lawmakers too, is not a fun part of the experience, and Teef Scrubs emulates how heavy it all feels. It's a great short film, and again, it's free on YouTube. Just like the final show here, Hetero by Third Charm Films. Despite the name, this may be the most overtly queer thing on this list, maybe that I'll ever review. This 5-episode miniseries follows a group of variously queer high schoolers living life and trying to save their club, the Gay Straight Alliance. They are the only members and they don't like straight people. I don't understand what's preventing them from hanging out together after school outside of the club. I also don't blame them for not liking straight people, because all of the cishet characters are terrible, like cartoonishly terrible, even the adults. That's not to say the main characters are any better, because they aren't, especially not in the first episode. Why are all the characters in this show so awful? Later in the series, they grew on me, but I could just never get into the GSA plot. The whole thing is paced weirdly too. Instead of 5 episodes that add up to about 70 minutes, I feel like this would have been stronger as a 90-minute movie. I really only watched this for the budding romance between Olivia and Quinn, but the other characters have their place. This show is strongest when it's exploring the individual relationships between characters, but everything moves so quickly that you really don't get to enjoy it. This seems to me like it's being made by amateur filmmakers. We all got our start somewhere. I can't say that my early attempts at storytelling were worthy of a Kids' Choice Award, but it shows potential, and I hope that eventually there will be a better alternative to the original YouTube series. Okay, and that is the end of my script. If you saw my eyes looking down, it's because I was looking at my laptop this whole time. But thank you for watching Megapack Kids Pride Mania 2. I will definitely be back next year, maybe with a more memorized script. Bye!